Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and here we talk about the harmful beliefs and ideas that come from religion, red pill, and so on. And today, well, this is a very special video. Gentlemen, we're going to learn how you can get a TradWife of your very own. Last year, someone suggested I check out Scott Kelli's channel, and among the lifestyle videos, I found SMV, Dating, College, Teen Marriage, Feminine Success Strategies. I'll link to my commentary on that in the cards, but to refresh the memory, feminine success is marriage, and you should focus your attention on that. Yes, even if you're 18. You should move if you have to. And if you don't want to get married, that's okay, but realize you're the outlier and don't talk about it. Such a fun video. Let's show a clip.
A woman's most fertile and attractive sexual market value years are from the age of 16 to 25. That's your window of trading your beauty, trading your youth for a partner who will invest into you, right? So again, now we're talking about sunken cost and opportunity cost for men, right? Men do the same thing for women. It's like, I'm going to invest in this woman for the rest of my life. I'm going to sink my investment. I can't get it back in this woman for the rest of my life. Do you think they want a 30-year-old who's in debt and has slept with 20 other men and believes in feminism and liberalism and all this stuff? Or do they want a young, virtuous girl who loves the Lord, who has not slept with anyone, who is still pretty, is still helpful, is still a cheerful spirit? That's who they want to invest in for the rest of their life.
Throughout that video, they mix red pill talking points in with the Bible and mention Stefan Molyneux more than anyone ever needs to. So although I was waffling as to whether or not they actually know what a TradWife is, you know, I think they do. And for anyone new who's wondering what's so wrong with being a TradWife, shouldn't feminists support housewives? Housewives and TradWives are two different things. They both stay home to care for the home and kids if there are any, and that is where the resemblance ends. TradWives also believe women should submit to their husbands, and then there's the whole white supremacy and Christian nationalism. I'll leave links below that go further in depth about the TradWife link to the alt-right. Anyway, from the sounds of it, this is the follow-up to that video, but for men. Someone sent this in via my suggestion form, which is linked below, with the comment, "You did a video on these two a while ago. They had frightful things to say about teens getting married, albeit it seemed that video was more geared toward girls in particular. I find it interesting in this video that seems to be advice for the guys. They start off saying teen boys in school shouldn't be looking to get married or to even date at all. I thought it would be interesting to delve into this video as these folks have a colorful video list to say the least." Oh, they do have a colorful video list. And something interesting for me is that they push for teen girls to marry, but not teen boys. So who do they think those teen girls will be marrying? That's a rhetorical question. I think we all know the answer. For now, however, let's look at patriarchy, finding a TradWife, Scott's dating stories. And before we get into it, I would like to note that I don't know Scott or Kelly, and these are my thoughts and opinions. That being said, thank you for joining me, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. We open with Scott welcoming us to part 3 of things he wished he had done differently, or lessons to the younger guy. He tells us he became a Christian at 13, thought the first girl he dated would be his wife, and the silver ring thing came to his town when he was 15. From the ACLU, the silver ring thing is a nationwide ministry program that uses abstinence only until marriage sex education as a means to bring unchurched students to Jesus Christ.
And this pastor was basically illustrating a story. He took 2 planks, bunch of wood glue, and he's like, this is what happens when you have sex. And he sticks the 2 planks together. And he's like, 2 people become one flesh when they have sex. And so we're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, the lights in the auditorium go dark, and everyone's like, what's going on? What's going on? And this chainsaw, what's going on? What's going on? Is that the end of the presentation? And this chainsaw starts up, and the lights are all flashing, and this guy in a hockey goalkeeper mask comes out and just goes to town on this plank with his chainsaw. And then lights come on, he walks off, and there's pieces of wood all over the stage. He picks up the 2 kind of messed up planks, and he's like, this is what you have to do to get out of that. If you want to get out of that, you're going to carry with you pieces of the other plank throughout the rest of your life. And it's going to take a lot to get yourself back into a place where you can now bond with another plank again. And it was a great little illustration on becoming one flesh. It made a huge impression on me, and I'm very grateful for that.
I I can see why the ACLU objected to the federal government funding that. Anyway, Scott credits that display with keeping him from sleeping around and giving him the desire for a virgin wife. And around the age of 17, his youth group leader began asking him what he thought of girls, and to Scott, that was permission to date / an awakening. So he began dating, and that brings him to his first piece of advice.
The number one piece of advice that I have to young guys is that when you're in high school, you're not a man yet. You don't live on your own. You aren't earning an income. You're not ready to get married. And this kind of applies going forward into university for a lot of guys as well. But basically, if you aren't able to marry a girl and start a family, what are you doing dating? Because that's the point of dating. The point of dating is, let's get married.
I have a question. In their Feminine Success Strategies video, they push hard for girls to marry at 18, and as we saw, Scott notes that peak SMV, which stands for sexual market value, for a woman starts at 16. But if teenage boys aren't yet men and thus have no business dating because the point of dating is marriage, who are they advising teenage girls to marry? Back to the video, Scott advises focusing on crushing your domain, which for high school students would be school, sports, and friends. And if you're in college and dating someone, what's stopping you from getting married? They really hate dating. I'm sure it will surprise no one that they got married 6 months after they met. Anyway, they tell us that it's cheaper to be married and that 80 to 90% of Christians are sleeping around, which means you're functionally married, so why not get married for real? It's nice to see these two still conflate sex with marriage. Kelli brings up timelines and boundaries, and
one of the things that I had seen for a lot of the churches I had been in was couples dating for 3-4 years. And it's like, why are you doing that? Why are you that is insufferable. It's like, as a guy, and again, it always comes back to this thing of, again, 80% of Christian couples are probably sleeping together anyway. But for someone who's got a conviction to not do that, that's almost an impossible timeline.
Is he aware that he just told us he wants to get married ASAP so he can have sex? How is that Christ-like? But really, if someone wants to date for however long before marrying, that's none of anyone else's business. Someone choosing to date for 10 years isn't going to stop someone else from marrying within 10 days. If that's not doable for you, okay. If that's not a choice you would make, okay. And by the way, dating for years before marriage would be insufferable to me is not a flex. I think what they're trying to do here is impress upon their audience that you can't have sex until marriage, so you shouldn't delay marriage because you'll end up having sex without being married, and to these two, that's really, really bad. Whereas to me, getting married so you can have, as they said, shame-free sex is really, really bad. But per these two, if you have a girlfriend, you're able to get married and...
Put a timeline on yourself of 3 to 6 months. Of within 3 to 6 months, we break up or we get married. Because that allows you to really set a boundary of, I don't have to cross any sexual boundaries here, and it forces me to get to the point of, what am I looking for in a wife? Because so many people are like, well, you've got to know them for 4 seasons. No, you're looking for a girl who you want to meet her family. Do you like her family, how she was raised? Can you address the issues of how she was raised compared to how you were raised? And then, are you going to help my mission?
How much would you like to bet that these two don't believe in divorce? It's really easy to fake anything for 3 to 6 months, and in my opinion, you can't get to know someone in such a short time frame to know if you want to spend the rest of your life with them. This is so irresponsible. And these two are in their 30s. They are also selfish. Well, I shouldn't say they. Scott is selfish. Kelli isn't allowed to be. And he's encouraging other men to be selfish as well.
Is she going to adapt herself to me, or am I going to have to adapt myself to her, put her career first? Am I going to have to support her goals and her mission?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Scott doesn't believe compromise is a thing in marriage. I do love the derision though. What if she wants me to support her mission? Heaven forfend, that's not how it's supposed to be. From here we go back to how important a deadline is, and Kelli notes that now Scott's deadline is 3 to 6 months, but it used to be a year. And he was dating someone he wasn't ready to marry after a year, so he shortened the timeline for when you should be ready for marriage. That makes no sense to me, but per Scott, this will essentially save you from spending a year with someone you're not going to marry, and a year will make you lazy because you'll think you have a year to just enjoy the dating and friendship. Kelli notes it takes a lot of courage to break up, and is this true?
Especially in a church environment where if you share friendship groups, you share a church, all this kind of stuff, everyone else is expecting you to get married. Everyone else is already seeing, especially once you go past the 3-month mark, it's like, oh, They're a thing now. Of course, they're going to get married. It's just a matter of time. So to break up is a very awkward and embarrassing thing for everyone involved.
Do people really think a couple is going to marry once they've been together for 3 months? That hasn't been a thing anywhere I've been, but please let me know in the comments if that's been your experience. Scott goes on to tell us that a ton of people don't break up out of fear of the trouble it would cause, and this is another of my "is that true" moments.
One more point on the high school and college age dynamic is that you're going to be in a lot of friendship groups with a bunch of pretty girls that you find attractive. And so one thing that I wish I was told and that is the very real dynamic is that there is no friendship between guys and girls. There's no such thing as just friends. If a girl is hanging around a guy, she likes him. If a guy's hanging around a girl, he likes her.
You can like someone without wanting to date them. Honestly, this is embarrassing to hear from 2 adults. But come to think of it,
so mixed friendship groups are awesome if you're ready to get married.
it's also really strange that 2 adults are so caught up on teenagers marrying. But really, if you meet someone of the opposite sex, you don't have to decide if they're marriage worthy or nothing. You can just be friends. Everything doesn't have to be high stakes. Another reason I don't like this nonsense is because having friends of the opposite sex is how you realize that the opposite sex is human, just like you. Of course, you can't have boys realizing that girls are human, then they might think girls should have the ability to be their own person instead of being relegated to helpmeet. This next part, Scott says that mixed friend groups can be a great way to get to know girls in a low-stress environment, but if you're not ready to marry, you shouldn't engage with girls because even if you don't pursue them, they could pursue you, and that's how he ended up with one of his girlfriends even though he wasn't ready for marriage.
I was a college-age boy, not ready for marriage, not standing on my own 2 feet, and so it was just terrible timing, not understanding the times. For both of us, the girl should have been looking for an older guy who was ready to get married.
Because this is the one who was older than you.
Yeah. And I should have been not mixing around with a bunch of girls enjoying their attention. I should have been crashing at sports and school.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but there is nothing wrong with dating. There is nothing wrong with having friends of the opposite sex. In fact, I would say both are actually pretty important to human development. Also, I'm really curious about how much older than Scott this girlfriend was. Anyway, from here we move on to egalitarianism, and I'm sure this is going to be great.
I grew up very egalitarian, libertarian boy who just wanted to be a good, nice Christian guy. You know, we were told all these things of if you just follow God, then a girl who's just following God and you'll meet at God. And that's not actually the case, because being an egalitarian, being an androgynous guy makes you end up usually idolizing girls, being really afraid of upsetting them, always wanting to be a servant to the lady and be like, well, what do you want to do? And whatever makes you happy. And I'm going to base my life around you.
Right. So first, egalitarianism is the doctrine that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. Putting women on a pedestal, being their servant, not considering yourself and your needs, that's not egalitarian. I can understand a kid confusing that, but Scott is in his 30s, so I suspect he's just trying to confuse the meaning of the word. Second, I doubt this was intentional, but Scott just told us why it's so important to have friends of the opposite sex. Realizing the humanity of others is a great deterrent to idolizing them. Third, I don't understand what androgyny has to do with this. But anyway, Scott had to come out of that mindset, and I would like to know what very egalitarian means.
One of my girlfriends, I was very egalitarian. She was very career-orientated, academic, wanted to get all of her qualifications, all this kind of thing. And so, of course, being an egalitarian nice guy, I was like, well, I will help you with your career and your goals, and ended up basing my life around her goals.
It's kind of funny. We're supposed to have a that's bad takeaway from this story, but if it was a woman talking about basing her life around her husband, then it would be good. The idea that a couple can support one another doesn't seem to occur to Scott or Kelli, even though they just talked about how egalitarian Scott had been. But have no fear, Scott's brother set him straight.
My brother did tell me this, to my shame, and God bless my brother. But a girl adapts herself to your life. She follows your life. She follows your goals. She helps your goals. You don't adapt to her life. You don't adapt and follow her goals.
If that was from Scott's brother, I question how egalitarian he was, though he doesn't seem to have understood the word then or now. Anyway, it gets worse.
And so the big lesson from egalitarianism coming out of the popular culture of egalitarianism is that two androgynous people will end up, one of them will end up being the masculine and the other will end up being the feminine. And if it's the guy who ends up being the feminine, you are against your nature. And same for the girl, she's against her nature. And so there ends up being this incredible
resentment.
Yeah, just a turmoil in your life of we're not living how God intended us to live.
Yeah.
In short, no one can actually be egalitarian because one will be feminine and one will be masculine no matter what. And if you're not doing something, I'm not sure what, you're androgynous. Do these people listen to what they're saying? I did peek at the comments and there's a lot of agreement. I would wonder if they're deleting comments, but someone did say, hey, it's Gilead's future leaders, so I think they did manage to cultivate a corner of the internet that's very friendly to this message. Though, to be honest, I think it's a lot easier to preach submission, biblical authority, and so on with minimal pushback than it is to speak against such things. Back to the video, he tells us that with an abundance mindset comes a cleaning out of past hurts, regrets, and so on. And remember, gentlemen, God has many people out there who will be a good helpmeet for you, but you also have to put in the work to become a high-value man to attract that person. Scott advises that there are probably thousands of trad girls around, but if you're not a trad guy, they're not going to want you. And I'm going to need someone to tell me where this is in the Bible.
So the first part in being a more traditional guy, a more masculine guy, is learning to hold frame versus being controlled by a woman's emotions. That's a real hard lesson for nice guys or effeminate guys or androgynous guys to have to learn, is to be the one who holds frame of, I don't mind if everyone else is upset with me. I don't mind if everyone else is not enjoying themselves. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's where I'm going. Here's my direction. Here's my vision. Here's my values. And I'm not deviating from that. This is what I want to achieve in my life. And that way, when a girl comes along, I'm not like, oh, veer off and go pursue a girl. It's like, no, I'm going here and a girl can join me on my mission, on my goal. That's holding frame.
Holding frame is a red pill thing, and it's very interesting to see it applied to Christianity. But I do enjoy this. It doesn't matter if other people don't like it, aren't comfortable with it, whatever. I am holding course and going this way. I would think that if a majority of people you meet disagree with what you're doing or how you're going about it, you might want to listen to what they have to say, but that's probably just because I'm a woman who wants to derail his mission. Scott goes on about how you see a lot of women controlling marriages through their emotions and being upset whenever she doesn't get her way because women are children, and then talks about how they weren't trad until...
I wasn't really a trad guy.
No.
You weren't a trad girl.
No.
We just realized once we were married of, oh wow, being married is awesome. I'm more attracted to you when you're feminine. You're more attracted to me when I'm masculine. This feels better. This feels right. We started, thankfully, going down this path of the masculine and the feminine.
Word.
Yeah, taking God at his word.
So this trad lifestyle is tied in with the Bible. Interesting. Reminds me of my earlier comment about Christian nationalism. Anyway, Kelly asks if Scott thinks church environments are very feminine, which makes guys more feminine, and of course, Scott agrees.
Yeah, a lot of churches encourage women to be risky and aggressive and assertive and masculine.
Being risky, aggressive, and assertive are masculine traits, so it's fine for men, but not for women? Has it occurred to these two that some women like to take risks just like some men don't like to take risks? That some women are assertive just like some men?
And it's the same in the corporate world. But girls are awesome at running bureaucracies, at running organizations, and making sure that everything's clean and organized and tidy and hosted.
I don't think this man likes women. And I also don't think he has much experience in the corporate world. It looks bad if anyone's desk is a mess, and if anyone isn't organized, how are they going to get their work done? And hosting events is an actual job in itself. That's not just something added to any woman's work tasks because they're a woman. Fun fact, men can plan and host events too. I know, I've met some male event planners.
Whereas men are good at building, fighting, and protecting.
I guess we're to believe that men are just innately good at building, fighting, and protecting. What if they aren't? What if they don't want to fight? Is he aware that a lot of men work in the corporate world? Also, who are these men protecting and what are they protecting them from? I hear a lot about how men protect, and it's just, from the way these folks talk, you would think we're at threat of being attacked by a saber-toothed cat at any moment. And you know, I think they wish we were.
And so if you want a clean church, if you want a clean corporation, get rid of all the men. But if you want gain, if you want productivity and building and protecting, then you're going to need men. But then that comes with ooh, men are uncomfortable, men are rude, men are dangerous, men are mean. Risks.
Wow. So if you want something to be clean, get rid of the men, but you'll lose productivity and protection. So basically, women only keep things clean, they don't build anything, they don't have ideas. Honestly, he makes women sound like nothing until a man comes along to guide them, and he makes men sound like jerks. If you're rude, it's because you're rude, not because you're a man. That's not some sort of unavoidable trait because of your chromosomes. Same with being dangerous and mean. You don't get a free pass because, oh, you're a man, that's just how men are. Anyway, Scott blathers on about how in churches they've been in, the girls are encouraged to be risk takers and the men are told to be servants. Let me know if that's how it is in your church. It sure wasn't in mine growing up. Scott finishes by saying, you gotta serve, and is that not typical in churches? Serving others? Anyway.
And so the lessons from this is you want to become a patriarch. That's the biggest lesson out of all of this. A 14-year-old boy can start absorbing this lesson. And I mean, in the Jewish culture, the Old Testament culture, boys became men at age 13.
Wasn't there something about Jesus freeing us from the rules of the Old Testament?
So you want to become a patriarch. And a patriarch is all about building wealth in your work, your domain. What is the passion and the skill and the talent that God has put in your life to go do? You want to start going and building excellence at that. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. That's status.
I would like to note that wealth and status making a man high value is also a red pill thing. Anyway, Scott talks about how, unfortunately, in the church, so many men think they're called to ministry, and that's how you end up with theology bros and missionaries and so on, and 80% of them shouldn't be there.
Probably 1 in 12 guys, like 8% of dudes should be in the ministry. The rest of us should all be crushing in business, in media, in academia, in government. There's so many different domains for you to go and absolutely go give your gift, be talented, gain status in society.
He seems very concerned with worldly things, I must say. But at this point, I would say Scott and Kelly's channel is Christian-ish and red pill. No ish about that. It's cute though that he thinks most people, regardless of sex, are going to crush it at their job or even want to. Not everyone can rise to the top and not everyone wants to be at the top.
So that, with that status comes influence. We want to influence our world. We want to be the ones who are influencing how culture happens, how society takes place. We want to be the leaders of that.
Well, at least he's honest. He wants control.
Alongside that comes building your family and your legacy. You've built all this influence, you've built all this wealth. To what purpose? Abraham says to God, he's like, God, you've given me all this stuff. You've given me victory in battle. You've given me great wealth. You've given me land. What does any of this matter if you do not give me children?
So let's think about this for a minute. Men are to spend their time building their status, influence, and wealth. And per Red Pill, men are at their peak in their 30s and 40s because they've had the time to build that wealth and become, as they say, high value. And per these two, and Red Pill, women start their peak at 18 and should marry and start having kids at that age. By their own beliefs of what people should do, it sounds as though 18-year-old women marrying men in their 30s or 40s would, in their mind, be the ideal setup. And let's not forget, you should have a 3 to 6 month timeline for marriage. That is disgusting, and as I mentioned in the last video on these two, the people who were not teenage brides or grooms or parents are always the ones advocating for it. Scott and Kelly are around the same age and married in their mid-20s, and yet here they are.
And so for a lot of guys, they'll look and be like, I don't know what my mission is. I don't know what God's calling me to. He's calling you to be a patriarch. Be a patriarch at the things that you're excited about, the things you're passionate about. If you have a random hobby or a skill or something that you just love thinking about and doing and spending your time and money on, how do you be the best at it? Go be God's top guy in that domain. Go be God's best man in that domain. And then a wife can join you in your mission of being a patriarch. A wife can join your frame of wealth, influence, family.
It's famously easy to build wealth and influence. I suspect there are going to be a lot of frustrated men wondering why whatever they're doing isn't building them that wealth and influence in a timely manner. And on that note, Kelly asks how a man can tell if a woman is going to help his mission.
Yeah, I think how willing is she to come along with you and do all the things you want to do? Is she cheerful? Is she helpful? Does she want you to be successful at the thing that you find passionate and exciting? If she doesn't want to go to your show, if she doesn't want to go to your hobby, if she doesn't want to go to your church, if she doesn't want to support your work and what you're doing but she wants you to do all that for her. Go to her hobby, go to her church, go to her show, go to her work. Then it's you are now the helpmeet. You're the one who's excited about her life and is trying to promote and push her mission.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't married people support each other?
And that's where you end up with a matriarchal society where everything is catered around how do we make women happy when statistically half the culture is on antidepressants.
Wait. He just slipped that in there in a mutter and moved on, but is he trying to say that we're currently in a matriarchal society and that's why half the culture is on antidepressants? Speaking again to past videos, this is what folks like Ben Shapiro, Brittany Sellner, Bernadine Bluntly, and so on do. They say things are worse today, and we know that because of antidepressant use. And then they choose something they don't like, such as feminism, and decide that must be the cause. It's like saying more left-handed people are being born today, when the simple fact is that being left-handed, just like mental health struggles, are more accepted today and not considered something to be shamed or hidden. This is so disingenuous.
Last thing is, how do guys become more attractive to girls? And that all comes through confidence in your domain. A lot of guys, again, I'm going to reiterate this point because I wish it was reiterated to me. Ministry is probably not your domain. In fact, for the majority of guys, I'm going to say ministry is not your domain. If that's a hobby on the side, God bless, that's wonderful. A ton of men lose all of their energy and time into the church as a domain, thinking I'm going to become an elder, I'm going to become a pastor, a missionary, a worship leader, a theologian, whatever it is.
It just occurred to me that this is a self-professed Christian man essentially urging other Christians to not be so involved with the church. Of course, it's easier to get away with bad theology when you're doing home church, so I'm not really surprised, but it is quite strange to hear.
And that happens because so many people who are in the ministry put zero value on things that are outside the walls of the church.
This sounds weird coming from someone who's not to be of the world, but it makes more sense as he goes on.
We need more Christian men in business. We need more Christian men in academia. We need more Christian men in media. We need more Christian men in sports, in government, in bureaucracy, in local politics, in trades, in farming, agriculture. We need Christian men to go out and take dominion in all these other domains.
So there you have it. Christian men are to take dominion over everything, so there's no room for women and anyone who isn't Christian. And I imagine they're to use that dominion to convince other people that it's actually good and natural that only Christian men be in charge of society.
Go become excellent at that. Go take dominion in that place. Be confident in that place. That's how you become attractive to a girl.
Yes, girls famously don't mind when their rights are slowly taken away until they're considered an appendage to a man and nothing more.
Girls love men who are confident. They're crushing at the thing that they're crushing at. This is what I love to do, and I'm going to explain it to you for 2 hours because this is what I'm excited to do. That's what girls find attractive, is a man who's confident.
Confidence is attractive. Arrogance is not. I'll leave it to you to decide what Scott is displaying here.
And then if you're confident at that thing, and all the other guys in your hierarchy in your domain are like, wow, that guy's really cool. That's called social proof. That's called status. That's what women are attracted to. And again, it's this taboo thing to say that. Guys are attracted to beautiful girls. Oh, that's taboo. You can't say that. Well, it's the truth. Guys are attracted to beautiful girls. Girls are attracted to high status guys. Oh, you can't say that. It's the truth. Girls are attracted to high status guys who are confident. Other men think that those men are cool and are crushing. Well, so will girls. More
red pill talking points. Men are attracted to youth and beauty. Women are attracted to wealth and status. Sounding a bit worldly there, Scott.
I'm just thinking of, it's the picture of ugly professional athlete married to a gorgeous model. You see that with professional athletes, and it's because he's high status and she's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
And more red pill. They love to use athletes, actors, musicians as examples. And they also love to say that average women have inflated egos and reject average men because those athletes, actors, and musicians are sliding into their DMs or liking their social media posts. Anyway, it's time to wrap it up.
Out of all of this, understand your times. If you're a young guy, your first mission is to be a patriarch. Avoid girls, go crush. Be a patriarch. Wealth, influence, understand who God has made you to be. What is your domain? How do I go give my gift? How do I become high status in the things that I care about? And then look for a girl who would be helpful and adapt herself to you and what you're trying to do. And that can be at 18. At 18, you don't have to be wealthy and fully successful, because to be honest, you're not going to be a success at being a patriarch till you're 60 or 80. That's when you can look back and be like, I've run my race, I am a success. But your whole life you should be crushing, all the way up to 80, 90, 100, however long the Lord gives you to live.
So basically, a woman's goal is marriage, and a man's goal is to be a patriarch, which involves marriage but doesn't revolve around it.
And then once you do find these girls, go see who their couple is that's mentoring them, or their parents, and go have dinner with all of them. Have game nights, be in public around them, see how they are in public. And obviously have boundaries. You know, you don't want to invest into a girl longer than you need to. So put a 3-month boundary on it of, I'm going to learn everything I can about this girl in 3 months. And then if she's not good for me, if I'm not good for her, then praise God, God bless you, move on.
This is so irresponsible. You can't know everything you need to know about someone in 3 months. Well, that was something. I've already talked about how their ideal marriage scenario would have teens marry middle-aged men, but I want to talk about this mission thing. Let's say I meet a man whose mission in life is to create a cat rescue. Great, I can get behind that, let's go. So we work together and build our rescue. What happens if we disagree about the best way to do something? Would I be allowed to make any decisions, or would I just have to do as told? What if he decided the cat rescue wasn't his mission after all, and he closed it? I suppose the answer would be that different husbands have different requirements for submission, but this world they want to create is just so bleak. Women would have no agency unless granted it by their husband, and they try to write it off as not so bad with the excuse that, you know, husbands are to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And I'm not buying it, because as was impressed upon us a few weeks ago by Milena Ciciotti, husbands are not Jesus. And when you give someone all the power, that creates tyrants. Anyway, I'm going to insert some clips of other hair-raising things they've said. Enjoy!
The reality is, a 30-something-year-old career woman is not very desirable to men who are themselves high status. A high status guy in a small town is not going to be attracted to a girl his own age who's got a career
in the big city.
In the big city. It's just not going to happen. We are crying out to be ruled by a good king. Why does everyone move to Florida? Because there's a good governor there. Why does everyone leave South Africa? Because there's terrible governors there. Why is everyone leaving California? There's terrible governors there. People want a good king. Why do people care so much about the presidential debates and politics and news? Because they want Ben Shapiro to save them. They want Donald Trump to save them. They want a good king to come and punish wicked, punish evil, and reward good. We have to understand our times. We are not androgynous Christians that all have the same timeline and the same purpose. Girls have a different timeline to guys. Girls are able to get married at 18 and fulfill their purpose immediately.
Yeah.
Become a wife, become a mother.
We had like the most popular president ever, and
In the history of presidents. Frankly.
And somehow
He didn't win.
so
Yeah. And again, he was probably the most competent president as far as like getting stuff done. And it's like
And
he didn't get things done. Like, praise God, you know, there were some really important things that happened. When I say libertarianism is to men what feminism is to women, feminism takes women and inverts their role. It takes them from someone who God has intended to be a wife and a mother, to be a helpmeet to her husband, and it makes her into a second-rate man. Libertarianism takes men and who God has made men to be. God made us to rule, to take dominion over evil and subdue the earth, subdue evil in the earth, and rule righteously, be a good king in our domains, at our scale, at our level. Libertarianism takes the will to fight, the will to rule and subdue out of a Christian man and makes him passive.
And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.